Welcome everyone to part 4 of the CM Kozeman Q&A extravaganza, where I answer questions collected from patreon.com. Basically, it's a convoluted baroque version of the good old super chat system, but done over Patreon. If you support me on that platform, and the link is below, you also can visit the dedicated page and ask me all sorts of questions of your own, and I would be happy to answer them in detail. Also, these answers make for great side alleys of conversation and like tangent discussions, so I'm really enjoying this series. I hope you're enjoying it too. Once again, if you wanna ask a question of your own, the links are in the video description and below. And also, I know all you kids are on Discord and stuff these days, so please go on over there and invite your friends to come listen to this channel, listen to these videos, maybe follow me, and maybe even support me on Patreon. I need to reach out to new people. I really need this. So if you know someone you'd like to know better, tell them about this channel and the great banter and the weird facts and the great a cappella music it has. Okay. I'm recording it in an early morning hour in the 4th of May 2024. It's just that good time of the day where you got a little bit of pee, but not too much, just enough to get you energized. Also, you got a little bit of fart or a little bit of number 2, but not too much, so the gas buildup is just enough to get you energized. It's my golden sweet spot of internal bodily waste product pressure, and I'm enjoying the legendary CM Kozeman 3 liquid breakfast. Now, this is very easy if you live in a hurry, or like, I don't know, if you gotta get to somewhere, or I don't know, if you just don't feel like making a big breakfast. Here's the CM Kozeman 3 liquid breakfast extravaganza, and the recipe goes thus. In 1 mug, you make a pack of hot, ready-made coffee, ready to drink, and add a drop of milk and some brown sugar in it. Oh yeah. This is liquid A, okay? The brown liquid. Then you got the white liquid. And no, it's not what you think it is. Basically, it's a tall glass. You just have half a liter of milk, preferably lactose-free milk, but any milk goes, to be honest. And then you just blend 1 whole banana in that. And oh my god, like that gives you all the potassium and proteins you'll need for the day. Great stuff. And that's liquid B. And liquid C is just another tall big glass, maybe even like a big bottle of water. You just drop a tablet of 1000 gram vitamin C in that bitch. If you live in the UK, also try this amazing product called Barocca. So that's your liquid C. And no, they're not paying me to say this. It's just nice. So you line all these liquids up. Liquid A, liquid B, liquid C. And drink them all. And you're set like half of the day. Your nutrition, energy, and hydration needs are met. So I really recommend the CM Kozeman 3 liquid breakfast extravaganza. Okay, moving on to questions. Michael Dalton asks. Oh wait, I answered this question in the last episode. Just forgot to cross it out. How silly of me. Okay, Rogue Robot Studios asks. Are you open to consulting on other people's speculative evolution projects? And if so, who else have you worked with? That being said, if that's not enough of a question, then what are your favorite speculative evolution projects from other franchises, etc., etc.? Okay, so this last question I answered in the previous video, and my favorite projects include Rainia by my... No, not Rainia. No, I'm very sorry. My favorite projects include Hardeshur by my good friend TK Sivgin and co-host on the CMTK podcast. We're lagging behind on the episodes, so sorry about that, but there will be new episodes soon. I really like Hardeshur and TK Sivgin's pointillism style. It's a really great style of art. Plus, like, that guy really knows his, like, history of science. Like, I could really see him becoming a very erudite scholar of scientific history. I don't know if that's the path he will choose, but like he really knows like the nitty-gritty of the stuff. So the whole world is like, basically there are these like strange creatures on Mars, and they're all very well illustrated, but also you get kind of snapshots of the scientific discussion, debates, and even outright like scientific enmities around these creatures. And if you know a thing or two about biology or zoology or paleontology, you know that obviously the main constituent of these sciences are people, and like sometimes there's like really weird drama and beef between people. And also there's like all the time there are these new theories being put forward. Like people really don't know what they're dealing with exactly, but they have several working theories, so they discuss that. Now that's how real science works, and that's how in the Hardeshur universe, in a lot of very fun footnotes, you get to see these like sources and books that are obviously never published in this universe, but it really makes for an all-encompassing like I would want to be a researcher in the Hardeshur world. And the Hardeshur extended universe, actually, they travel to Titan and Europa, and there's some really strange and somewhat ominous stuff going there. So yeah, I got many favorites, but let's just talk about Hardeshur today as a hat tip to my dear friend. Alright, the answer to the first part, am I open to consulting on other people's... Okay, so sadly no. I mean, every month I get at least one offer to like help out with someone's Spec Evo project. In previous years, I used to tell them, look, if you have any questions, write them down, and I will answer them in a YouTube video. And if you go further back in this channel, you'll see many such videos. Maybe that kind of counts, but I mean, my time is really finely split between my own projects, my day job, my daily life, plus my other career as a artist and painter. So not enough time, unfortunately. Though when people show me stuff, I always like look at it, like read it thoroughly. I just don't have the time to comment on it. And if I really like it, I give it a boost on my Twitter. So also follow me on twitter.com/cmkozeman. 38,000 subscribers here, only 10,000 people there. So make the move. And yeah, so I try to give a hand as much as I can, but with my time schedule, sometimes it's just not possible. Sorry, guys. Michal Sadowski asks a long list of questions. Alright, he says, I wanted to ask about the significance of time in your artwork. In most of your projects, time is a powerful factor that drives your stories along, making the inhabitants of your worlds change, adapt, or perish due to ever-changing settings. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I mean, time is the source that turns memories and tragedies into stories, don't you think? Imagine like tomorrow you have a car crash and, I mean, heaven forbid, you break your arm or something. You also like crush somebody's really silly, stupid looking pug dog. And there's this whole fight there with like you with the like splintered arm, or no, you with the broken arm, and this guy yelling at you about, you killed Mr. Bimbo! No! And then, now that would be terrible, right? Like the animal is dead, You're probably traumatized. After 2 years, maybe you'd be ready to talk about like, that accident, blah, blah, blah. After 5 years, that accident becomes a story. All the trauma is washed away. Now, unless something horrible and life-changing happens, unless you were Mr. Bimble, you could tell about it in stories and like maybe even laugh about it, even though it was like a really serious thing back in the day. So that's what I always try to do. Like even in some of the short stories that I write, and like if you go to my website, just go to cmkozman.com, stories.html, and sometimes you don't need to finish everything in like one big finale. Now for me this is both a strength and a weakness. It's a weakness in that I'm not very good with these like character driven stories where like some people get together and blow up this like one big thing and everybody is rescued. And like somebody goes through changes and stuff. Like I'm not really great at writing these stories, and truth be told, I don't really enjoy them so much. But if you just like riff off of reality and maybe like give a snapshot of an experience, and then in your story let time sort this out, or even they might just disappear, you know, they're just erased with time. Talking about this makes for a really interesting and like somewhat magical story. Like imagine it's this kind of setting. Like you could either like write about, imagine there's these like mountain dwelling race of aliens, and for some reason there's this like one last artist among them, and he or she has to create this artwork and place it in a temple, and like they manage this, and like finally they like achieve something and blah blah blah. Now this is one way to approach the story. Or in my personal humble opinion, you could say that in the mountains we still keep finding these statues. Looks like these creatures had no concept of social life, so they did not create artwork for anybody else to see. They just made them to satisfy, made these little sculptures to satisfy their own whims, their own pursuits and desires of beauty, and leaving them behind, they disappeared, never to return. And now there's a museum dedicated to collecting these statues from like inaccessible mountaintops and stuff. And maybe it could be a kind of story where like these two characters, maybe people, go up to a statue collecting expedition, and they find these really interesting leftover statues by this long dead alien race. But somewhere along the way there's an avalanche, and they just have a tough time getting rescued, and then finally they are rescued, and the museum lets this one guy keep one of the statues they find, but he doesn't want it because whenever he looks at that damn thing, he remembers just being trapped under ice. That's it, like a kind of more like slice of life, open-ended kind of stories. I like these stories better, so I hope you enjoyed that one too, by the way. Okay, more questions from Michal Sadowski. Aside from your interests in natural history and human history, what makes you take such an elevated point of view in your stories? I think I just answered this. It's basically covering up an inability, or just like I don't like these like excessively character driven stories. Like, and don't get me wrong, there are some like great stories like those, but I'm just not good at them. So that being a factor, I just zoom out and let the story take its course. Like just now I told you about this avalanche story and stuff. Like, I mean, for example, 2 months ago my brother was trapped in an avalanche while he was on a skiing trip. It was a small avalanche, so nothing bad happened. So like you take these slices from real life or history or even your personal memories, and then you cut and paste them, and then you cover them with like this cement-like sauce of basically the little universe you created. And then when it bakes over, you get a nice kind of seamless and a very realistic looking weird story experience. So there. Another question: what is the significance of weaving a story through fluctuating worlds, changing through time? I think like it opens a door for mystery, because imagine we knew everything about, let's say, Stonehenge, and to this day we don't. I mean, maybe it was an observatory, but imagine like we definitely knew it was like the solstice celebration site or whatever, okay? Now that would take some of the magic away. And I think a story in which people are trying to explore Stonehenge and something maybe vaguely mystical or a strange coincidence happens, and our characters just think about this horrible mystery and just articulate their thoughts, I think that's more interesting than a story in which like Stonehenge is in full bloom and like all the clans gather there to like exchange grain and sell cattle and, I don't know, buy and sell slaves. I don't know. I also, for the life of me, cannot get my mind in the groove of those like, you know, Dragonlance, even dare I say Lord of the Rings, like this high fantasy settings, or Game of Thrones, like, even though like Game of Thrones, the proper name is A Song of Ice and Fire, I guess. Like, even though that's like a greatly written series and like very captivating, very engaging, I just like, my eyes glaze over when I have to like, oh, who was this guy? Where are they going again? Huh? Even though like that's a great story, I don't know. Maybe it's like high fantasy setting. It's like just the head, man. I mean, it's just, you're going to a fantastic, weird, wild place. But they're not going all the way in. They're just like creating a sort of shorthand, easily recognizable universe. And then it's just like, and they go on and on and on and on, and maybe there are a few interesting plot twists. Well, credit where credit's due. I think the Song of Ice and Fire series actually has like really great insights into characters' psychologies and basically the randomness of life and the cruelty of people. So let's not diss on that too much. But things like Dragonlance or like those like old extended universe legends, Star Wars books, I mean, just not my thing. I don't want to be too harsh because I can't write stories like that. Whether that's a good or bad thing is up to the reader to decide. And wow, Michal Sadowski is asking really great questions, by the way. Another question: what's your philosophical takeaway from writing stories where nothing but change is constant? I think, like, this is my whole take on life. As you get older, like, your 20s give way to your 30s, and like, you stop living with living under the safety and control of your parents, basically. You realize this strange thing that life is actually a never-ending series of crises. But in between, you got these islands or like oases of serenity and good moments and interesting moments, travels, cozy times, love, passion. And you look back at that. That's the joy of life. So I kind of want to put this when I'm writing stories. Oh, by the way, I don't want to like sound like a master author out there. I got like a few weird stories, a couple of big projects, that's it. But in them, that's what I'm trying to do. So hope you like it. Another question, very insightful questions from Michelle. How would you view life on Earth, imagining time as another dimension of space? Is life a self-replicating superorganism unconsciously motivated by its genetic code to keep itself alive? I'm curious about your take on that. Wow, it's like solid gold, highly rarefied, like some Hermes Trismegistus shit down here. Really nice question. Okay, so imagine time is a dimension of life. So it's like a 4-dimensional representation. Basically, in 4 dimensions, the universe is like a waterfall, okay? And life is this like eddy or whirlpool that somehow spirals backwards from the fall of the water and rises up, counterintuitively and weirdly. So I think that's like, if anything could be said to be the quote-unquote mission of life, that could be it, like using entropy as leverage to resist it, overcome it, maybe even observe and ultimately destroy it. Who knows? But thank you so much, Michelle, for these amazing questions. Really nice, like deeply philosophical with like none of the pretense I sometimes see in these kind of things. So like solid gold questions, mate. Thank you. Alright, Jakub Bobrovics, good friend, good artist, great artist actually. He's a great creature artist. Asks, any animal drawing tips? He says, for example, in your previous drawing videos, you mentioned using squiggly lines to add texture to parts of an animal's outline. What are some of the other tricks to make animal drawings feel more realistic? I noticed your old animal art has precise lines while your new work has looser and more organic lines. Can you speak about how your drawing style has evolved over the years? Yeah, great question. Okay, so like maybe from the age 6 until 26 or something, I was infatuated with clean lines. I still to this day really greatly admire and like the clean lines of Japanese art. I wanted to be able to like strike lines in such a way that they would not only define the outline of the animal, but they would also define its volume and even maybe its interactions with light a little. And there are like some really nice but subtle tricks you could use to do this. For example, if your line is curving, you could just add slightly like 1 or 2 pixels more width on the part of the line where it curves. And it really makes a difference. There are major lines and minor lines. Major lines are like the outlines of an arm or the outlines of an eye. And these are always like also like very slightly, by sometimes like 0.5 millimeter or something, thicker than the other lines which you use for shading and details. And this was how I rolled, and like I have some really precise works of art made with this style. But looking back, they all feel like a bit frozen and like icy. I mean, they're not without beauty of their own, but somewhere along the way I realized, wait a minute, there are no lines in nature. There are only fields. So I started sketching with these like basically using cross-hatching instead of lines. But you could cross-hatch a very narrow area. You could even cross-hatch an area as narrow as a single line. Now when you do this, suddenly 2 things happen. Your lines become more alive and they become more like, in a weird way, realistic. You also like break down the barrier between like outlines and shading. So you could create like really naturalistic looking compositions. You could hide the creature in the background, or you could make the creature really look wholesome and like finely rendered. I don't know. Another tip quite unrelated to this line art I could give is just to like study real animals. Like, I mean, you see millions of cool insect and animal photographs every day if you're browsing on Twitter or Instagram. Just open up a favorite image and try to draw that with like very rough, thick pencils on like a largest sheet of printer paper. And when doing these exercises, just study how the weight of an animal acts like. And then you will see like an animal as big as a cow has a different way of carrying itself. If this animal was as small as a pug, it would carry itself differently. There are different things with like lines happening, shadows happening, even the distribution of body parts, mass. Like you really need to learn this and practice this, and the only way to do it is to practice. Like maybe draw one large animal and one insect every day so you see the differences. In some like, let's say, eager art, I see like things where an animal is supposed to be like as big as a bus or something, but it has all these like very thin insect-like limbs and stuff, and it just doesn't feel real. If an animal was enormous, maybe you need to actually make the limbs thicker, maybe you need to make them tucked straight under the body, or maybe you just need to decrease the number of legs and make them bigger. I mean, there are these like brass tacks laws of physics, you know. Unless, of course, this thing happens in a low gravity world, but even that has some like subtlety to it. So like study from real animals. Also, like, this is a dirty trick, but trace the favorite artwork of your favorite artists, trace it, and then just delete these exercises. When you're tracing their work, you realize, actually, you go over their lines and you realize what they're doing, and like these little lessons really work their way into your head, basically. So 3 lessons. Think of lines as cross-hatching. Think of tracing your favorite artworks or photographs. Also exercise by trying to do a sort of live figure drawing from the comfort of your computer screen. Fuck, man, computers are amazing for that. Like, open up a laptop. Like, you could watch these zoo webcam channels on YouTube where it's just like one tiger pacing around in its cage, and you could use it as a live drawing exercise. I mean, it's like, you know, in older days, artists used to pay like enormous amount of money for like zoos to bring over a big cat for them to sketch. Now you can get that for free. It's unbelievable. And it's a shame to miss. Okay, thanks Jakub Bobrovics. I think we got time for one more question. Then I got to drink all my liquids and take care of some daily chores. Oh yeah. 3 liquid CM Kozeman breakfast bash. Ain't nothing like it. Oh man. I fucking have low blood sugar this morning for some reason. I don't know. I just don't know. Okay, James Bell asks, are you familiar with The Flight of Dragons, written by Peter Dickinson and illustrated by Wayne Anderson? It's the book that first put the idea of speculative evolution in my mind when I was in middle school. The premise it attempts is to plausibly explain all the mythological lore surrounding dragons and how they could have been real animals. Also, the art is amazing and totally up your alley. I guess this is less of a question and more of a recommendation, but it's a good place to get your thoughts on it. Well, thank you. I have never seen this, but since you, my good friend James Bell, have paid your hard-earned cash to be part of this channel, I'm just gonna look it up real quick. Okay. Flight of Dragons, book by Peter Dickinson. There's also a movie by that same name. Oh, this one! Shit! I saw this years and years ago in a bookshop in the UK. I remember the artwork was really great and I almost got it. But then I suddenly I don't know, I said dragons are not my thing, but no, I wish I'd gotten it. It's phenomenal. I really like this artwork by the illustrations by Wayne Anderson. They're both realistic, but they also have this very British watercolory fantasy air to them. And I think they even mesh a bit with medieval art. God, I wish I had bought this book. Maybe I'll find it again and buy it. But it really looks nice. I'm not a big fan of dragons, so that's why I skipped this book, but I mean, it looks phenomenal. Oh yes. Only the English have this very subtle way of dealing with such things, very delicate. Now, it looks very of course you're not seeing this, but it looks very almost like an old heraldic sign come to life with these very subtle, almost inky watercolors, very delicate greens, browns. It almost looks like something from an animation project too. It's all it's whimsical but also serious in a way only British artists can pull off. I mean, if this artwork was from an American artist, it would have all these northwestern coast trappings of little glass balls, and there would inevitably be some half naked elf girl somewhere. But here, it's just dragons, and the background is just beautiful. Very, very nice. Thanks for bringing this to my attention. I can respond maybe by recommending another artist. It's Bob Eggleton, basically. So that's Bob Eggleton. He's a great artist. He specializes in depicting these very massive creatures. Most of them are dragons. He's also done a lot of Cthulhu art. Truth be told, I think Bob Eggleton's Cthulhu art is the only Cthulhu art I can take seriously in my life. And he also had this big project about dragons. It had a more weird American sensibility to it, but it was also a great book. So I think the book was called Greetings from Earth, The Art of Bob Eggleton. It's not a self-contained Dragons Universe book, but there are lots of great images of dragons in it, and it's just a great art book. And Bob Eggleton is also a great artist. I think he also brings the best parts of the American psyche into his canvas, where these are gigantic creatures floundering in the background. They kind of seem to share some psychic affinity with these really old majestic paintings of the Grand Canyon or the American landscape, artists like Frederick Edwin Church, stuff like this. I know, I'm just in a art geopsychology kind of mood today. But thanks, James Bell, for this amazing recommendation. Flight of Dragons by Peter Dickinson. That's Dickinson. And also my counter recommendation is Bob Eggleton. So that's Bob Eggleton. Oh, looks like he also illustrated a bunch of Magic the Gathering cards. Oh God, don't get me started about Magic the Gathering. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, it was a really big deal in the posh Americanized Turkish school I was attending. And everybody was buying, selling, collecting these cards like crazy. I I never for the life of me understood the rules of this game. I just like the artwork. I like these, like, there are these Magic the Gathering cards called slivers. And there are all these, like, weird, kind of like strange knockoffs of Wayne Barlow's dagger wrist creature. But they have one scythe-like arm. And their two legs are like tentacles. A really bizarre creature design. And they really went with it. There are like multiple varieties of sliver, and they all look like evolutionarily related. So I really like looking at the sliver cards. Of course, I fucking never spent any money on that shit. I just looked at my friends' cards. And then, like, every once often they'd be like, did you see such and such as Black Lotus come out of the pack? And these kids would go, like, spend $100 or something on, like, binge buying these card boxes. Remember, this is a Turkish setting, so $100, like, some people made less in a month. So that was like quite something, huh? And then, like, Black Lotus would appear, and then, of course, 20 years later, this thing has made a comeback, I think, all over the world. I think you young friends, I mean, you're just getting picked up on this. I mean, it's a showcase of some interesting art, but as a game, I've never, like, seen the point of it. I mean, if someone, like, at gunpoint forced me to play a fantasy game, I'd rather choose Warhammer. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's like chess. But Magic the Gathering, man. I like the sliver creatures. I like the artwork, so it's good to see Bob Eggleton is an artist here too. We got some, like, you want to hear some Cosman Deep lore? So, like, in our high school once, this one kid stole some other kid's Magic the Gathering cards. And in high school, I was, like, always an outcast. And it was somehow partly my own doing. Because I was, like really antisocial. Just didn't give a fuck. But anyways, like, everybody banded together to hunt this Magic the Gathering thief and teach him a lesson. And, like, one of my few memories of, like, group activity in high school was joining this bunch of people in high school to hunt down this card thief and, like, I don't know, beat him up or something. I don't know. In my day and age, people still beat each other up in high schools. Maybe they do in your age too. I don't know. But it was weird. So we caught this thief. We cornered him in a toilet. And, like, I don't know, like, everybody was, like, getting ready to dunk on this guy, but suddenly they all stopped, and, like, everybody was shouting. I remember shouting, like, okay, let's hear what he has to say. And then, okay, like, I don't know, they, like, didn't beat up this thief, because he was also, like, a small and, like, wimpy kid with these, like, big glasses. I don't know why he did such a thing. Also, he was, like, one of the Jewish students in our high school, so maybe nobody wanted to turn it into a kind of anti-Semitic thing. I don't know, but it was, like, one of those weird memories I have from high school. Actually joining people to do something. I was mostly on my own. I was either in the backyard catching lizards and snakes, or in the last year macking out with this lady friend I had made. That's just how I roll. So that was just one of my few interactions with groups of people in high school. All thanks to you, Magic the Gathering. Okay. I like talking about these deep Cosman lore memories. Fuck, man. Some good times back there. But now, Magic the Gathering, oh shit, it's become something else, hasn't it? I mean, there are, like, cards selling for thousands of dollars. It's almost like NFTs, but a slightly more real and relevant version of NFTs. I don't know. I mean, check your attic. If you got those things, sell them and, like, be rid of them and make some money on the side. And I don't know, just spend it on art supplies, I guess. But it's like very weird how this scene has developed. Like, people like that card thief this day and age. Not gonna name any names, but they've become like, oh, big shots out there, huh? Still playing Magic the Gathering in your 40s, but now, after a 30-year interval, you're cool. But are you Kozeman cool? I don't know. Okay, everybody. I don't want to go any deeper in this Magic the Gathering lore, but I hope you enjoyed this segment. Thank you all for your questions. And we still have lots of ground to cover. So expect maybe, this is episode 4, expect maybe 4 or 5 more episodes in this series. And thank you all for your questions. And once more, please consider supporting me on Patreon. This has been a nice breakfast talk. Have a nice day. Bye.